Okay, so we'll look at Battlefield 1 at 21:9 and specifically my thoughts on the game. Battlefield has been one of my staple multiplayer go-to games for many years now, and with Hardline being such a useless title, it's been a while since we've had a great new Battlefield release to play with. The question obviously being then, how good is it? And quite simply for me, it is absolutely fantastic. Anyway, before I continue with my thoughts on the game, if you want to see my full 21:9 support breakdown of the game, then check out my video on that, linked in the description, or just head over to my channel page and it'll be there. So to cover the game, I want to look at single player and multiplayer separately, and we'll start with the single player first because it's the smaller of the two. Now, I've played all the single player Battlefields for all of the Battlefield games that I've owned, something I know most people haven't, and yeah, that's because they haven't been great, with Battlefield 4 being exceptionally useless. But nonetheless, I've always had this thing of making sure I just play the single player, so I played every part of the game. And yeah, that does mean that at least I can say without doubt that this is the best single player experience Battlefield has ever provided, at least for the last 4 or 5 games. Being split into multiple short snippets of different lives, i.e. the tank crew, the air pilot, it gives you a quick look at different gameplay mechanics and locations to play in, and because they are short, the story can be told with intensity and have everything thrown in at once without it getting dull like a longer story would have, as it's drawn out just to make it longer. Now, I can't deny, something that does really bother me is the massive historical inaccuracy with, well, all of the game, but especially the single player stuff. But that's just because I've loved studying the time period much of my life, so it's harder than normal to make myself accept the fact that it's a game. But that said, it doesn't take away from it in any real way for me, and it shouldn't for anyone. Obviously, Battlefield was never going to go for the realistic route for World War I. An entirely new IP would be needed for that, as it's simply not action hero-y enough for this series. And that is totally fine. But at the same time, DICE has managed to convey the settings absolutely beautifully, with unquestionably the best graphics in the entire series, and they also managed to get the idea of roughly what happened at the time across, even though they are taking their artistic license. So yeah, I personally have really enjoyed the campaign, and I would definitely recommend giving it a go, especially for those new to the series, as it teaches you how to play the game in each section, i.e. how to fight in a tank or in the air and so forth. And normally I wouldn't bother recommending the story, but this is an exception. Okay, so the pivotal part of this game, multiplayer. You have everything like normal, so the usual game modes, rush, conquest, etc., and a number of maps and guns, but there are a few good changes, most of which I love, but some I'm a bit divided on. So firstly, the new game modes, specifically Carrier Pigeon and Operations. Carrier Pigeon is just great fun, it works well and provides a really tight, intense firefight throughout the game. It'll be loved by those looking for experiences like Close Quarters from Battlefield 3. Operations is, however, hands down a favourite of mine because it takes rush but just amps things up. It feels the closest to full-out war this game can reach, and it's just truly the best possible experience for me. I've never been a fan of Conquest, with fighting just too sparse, and Operations providing a brilliant mix of size and intensity. What it does seem to do, though, is remove really any desire to play Rush. Rush has suddenly become kind of, well, like, what's the point in playing it? It's only different in a small number of ways from Operations, so I'm not really sure if it's going to become a less played game mode now, with players opting to play Operations instead. I don't know, but it doesn't matter really because you have the choice of the two anyway. On to more positive things, gameplay. The gameplay is absolutely top-notch. Things like improved abilities to jump over hard obstacles, general lack of glitching around. Basically, the game feels so much more refined, none of the little niggly problems from previous games. On top of this, online issues like hit detection are extremely good too, and it allows you just to focus entirely on the match instead of worrying about these other little issues. Weapon choice is massively decreased from previous games, with a serious limitation on any customization of weapons, but this is actually not as bad as it sounds. Instead, every weapon now has a very clear use. Balance between weapons is very clear, and if tweaks are made, then they'll be really discernible, and someone just can't get the perfect gun for every situation. So it is a big step up from Battlefield 4, where there were a lot of samey weapons. We can expect lots of new weapons in DLC 2, so yeah, I'm happy with this. Gun camos are unfortunately nothing special, however. Some are cool, but generally they're just little details you notice and it's never going to blow you away. What will, however, is the sound design. Easily the best sound design in any game I've played. In battle, you're surrounded by crisp noises of every kind. The crack of a rifle, the rattle of machine guns, squelching through mud, bullets hitting rock, artillery bombarding buildings. The sound design is frequently forgotten about, yet without it, you are just not sold on the world. And this entirely sucks you in, and I love it. What has also been added to, and man, it has been a while, but finally it has been done well, destruction. Walls, buildings, everything can be smashed, broken, destroyed, and it's not done in a generic, oh, that little bit of square wall can fall but nothing else. Objects break in a far more diverse way, at angles, floors blowing out, and it all feels so much more satisfying, and I really appreciate it. Lastly, on multiplayer, as always, Battlefield is a much more difficult game than, say, COD, especially for new players, and this really does reward teamwork. Teams crumble so quickly when they don't diversify their classes or help each other out, and I really love it when you have two very evenly matched teams fighting it out and you hit stalemates, and you've got to use things like ground turrets on the ground for taking out airplanes or tanks, as for the first time they are actually extremely valuable resources you must make use of. And in addition, the implementation of a massive zeppelin or dreadnought or train to turn the tide of a battle is key to amping up tension. Suddenly the defense are struggling to hold on, and it's brilliant. It's balanced so well in most cases and leads to truly phenomenal battles. However, I can say that there are two maps in operations that simply need a massive rework of balancing, as attacking players cannot progress through them, but I'm sure DICE will sort it out soon, so hopefully it won't be an issue for too long. Other small points to point out, I do like the return of a built-in multiplayer and single player etc. set of menus, and having access to other Battlefield titles in there too is cool. The different zoom levels and gun muzzle climb direction options are lovely touches for those advanced players, and the zoom in and out of the multiplayer map is just bloody awesome. Just gives you an uninterrupted look onto the fight below. Wow, okay, that was a really long breakdown. I really love Battlefield, as whilst I play a lot of other games, it's my go-to game all the time. I can just jump on for 10-15 minutes and play a bit, then jump off, etc. Whereas single-player titles need much more dedicated play sessions. So yeah, it means a lot that this game has proved itself to be very good in my eyes, and it totally gets my recommendation to buy, especially with its brilliant ultra-wide support. Anyway, I hope that gives you a better idea of what this game has to offer at 21x9. Remember, if you want to see my 21x9 support breakdown of the game, then check out my video on that, linked in the description, or just head over to my channel. Give this video a like if you found it helpful, and subscribe for future info. For any of the games at 21x9, head over to my channel. Hopefully I've covered it. If I haven't, then leave a comment down below and I'll try and cover it. And if you'd like to donate to the channel, the link's to my Patreon page in the description. See you later.
20 of our soldiers remain.
We've got to hold them! Ecco, una granata per io!
Riesci, muovi
I'm just gonna say I've had plenty of practice moving quietly. Out the back of bars, bedroom windows, you don't need the details. Anyway, once those Germans were gone, I put my skills to work, heading west towards the British front, quiet as an alley cat.
Die Füße sind eiskalt. Und den ganzen Scheiß sind nur die Franzosen schuld.
Rede mit einem, den der Geschwätz interessiert. Ich kann's nämlich nicht mehr hören. Klingt langweilig. Und dann der Witz. Seit wann bist du denn unter die 50er